Hi friend, thank you for watching the video. Click like and subscribe.
The Last of Us HBO Episode 1 recap. The first episode of HBO's new series The Last of Us begins with a 1968 talk show program in which two epidemiologists analyze hypothetical pandemic nightmare scenarios. One of them believes mankind can survive a pandemic, echoing the mistaken optimism that characterized the early days of the coronavirus epidemic. The other foreshadows The Last of Us impending pandemic, a deadly fungus that transforms insects into primordial, voracious monsters with the sole purpose of feeding and spreading itself across a population. According to this expert, global warming may make people suitable hosts for such a fungus, making them prone to infection. The science is a little tricky, but it's plausible enough, especially because climate change is known to harm human respiratory systems and immunity. After the ominous warning from 1968, we flash forward to Austin in 2003. Sarah, Nico Parker, is getting ready for school and planning for her dad's birthday. Parker and Pedro Pascal engage in playful banter, and we even see Joel's brother Tommy, Gabriel Luna, join breakfast. It's clear that this is a family unit where everyone depends on one another. Both Sarah and Tommy hold Joel accountable for the lack of pancakes. Joel talks about how he barely wants to share a construction job with Tommy and isn't interested in anyone else's help. Immediately, we understand that Joel wants to provide and be self-sufficient. He just needs help and doesn't acknowledge it. The story then follows Sarah, and it's here where the show employs cliches about ensuing zombie pandemic panic, with background news reports of trouble in Jakarta, Indonesia, as the sounds of sirens and helicopters begin filtering into the background ambience. All the while, Sarah attends school and later seeks out a watch repair shop. She wants to fix an old watch as a gift for her dad. Sarah even visits the neighbors, people we never met in the game. Here, they're an elderly couple who occasionally need help around the house. It's clear, to us, the viewers, though not to the characters on the show, that one of them is already infected. Later in the evening, Joel returns from work and Sarah presents the fixed watch. Some lines from the game's introduction are repeated here, including Sarah joking about selling hardcore drugs to scrounge up money for the repairs. Tommy calls and says he's been arrested for participating in a brawl. Here, again, we can tell the other person was infected. Tommy doesn't know, and Joel has to leave. The neighbors, meanwhile, transform into monsters. The brothers return right on time to whisk Sarah to safety after she wakes up in the night to find nobody home and the neighbor's place in disarray. What follows is a mad rush to escape to, well, anywhere. After Sarah joins Joel and Tommy in a pickup with a quarter tank of gas, the three speed across the outskirts of Austin only to find the highway choked with traffic and the fields filled with soldiers. Making their way downtown, they find a different sort of chaos. When Joel and Sarah encounter a soldier, it quickly becomes apparent he's going to kill them, presumably acting on orders to take extreme measures to contain the spread of the infection. Tommy arrives in time to take him out, but not before the soldier peppers Joel and Tommy with a spray of bullets, grazing Joel but fatally wounding Sarah, who dies in Joel's arms. Sarah is killed by an overzealous Fedra soldier. As mentioned earlier, Pascal nails the performance, and so does Parker. It's hard to fight back tears when their performances are so heartbreakingly believable. After that, we get a jarring flash forward several decades. We meet a child walking aimlessly into Boston, now established as a quarantine zone from the pandemic. The child is infected, and the militarized police force opts for euthanization. We see Joel again, looking sadder and angrier, still doing blue-collar work, this time disposing of the dead. He shows little hesitation in grabbing and tossing the child's body into a fire. After 20 years, Joel is numb to it. His heart is closed. But maybe not to everyone. Later we meet Tess, Anna Torv, a key figure who in this show is clearly Joel's partner in romance and crime. She's arguing with a man named Robert, who apparently tried to screw her out of a deal to get a working car battery. Robert is scared to death, not just of Tess, but of her enforcer, Joel. A sudden explosion caused by nearby conflict between the military and rebels separates the two, and as Tess is apprehended by government agents, she insists she's not a Firefly. The Fireflies are a resistance group against the militarization of quarantine zones. We learn that soldiers under Fedra, the barely functioning attempt at re-establishing some sort of government, are corrupt, trigger-happy, and hog Boston's meager resources. We see Joel selling painkillers to one of these soldiers, a glimpse into that corruption, but also Joel's side gig as a smuggler. The Fireflies are shown to be dangerous, with little regard for collateral damage. They're also losing. Finally, we meet Ellie, Bella Ramsey, chained in a Firefly location for as of yet unknown reasons. Marlene, Merle Dandridge, forces Ellie to undergo simple logic tests to prove her awareness of the situation. The Fireflies question Marlene's plan, but when Marlene writes out her reasons silently to a trusted associate, their questions turn into unquestioning determination. Marlene leads them to get Ellie out of Boston. Joel and Tess's hunt for a car battery puts them in the orbit of the Fireflies. Joel needs a car battery because he received a signal for help from his brother Tommy, who may be in Wyoming. This plot point, new for the show, gives Joel an initial motivation to leave Boston. Robert fails to scam the Fireflies with the same car battery from before, which turns out to be broken, and he's killed for it. The Fireflies needed that car battery for their journey out of Boston. With this plan foiled and their numbers dwindling, a desperate and wounded Marlene, played by Merle Dandridge, who plays the character in the apocalyptic video game as well, asks Joel and Tess to smuggle Ellie, because she knows these two are capable of killing their way through danger. They reluctantly take the assignment, and as they leave the Boston safe zone, they run into a federal soldier. This isn't the soldier's first appearance. He was buying painkillers from Joel, who smuggles goods in and out of the city. But the soldier isn't so charitable to his dealer, and is determined to turn the three in. As the soldier is scanning all three for possible infections, Ellie proves her fighting spirit by stabbing the soldier, who points his rifle at the girl. The show goes out of its way to juxtapose this moment with Sarah's killing, a bit heavy-handedly. The parallels should be pretty obvious to viewers. Joel snaps and beats the soldier to death with his bare hands. But that's not the show's climax. In fact, we see that the soldier's scan of Ellie is positive, which angers and confuses Tess and Joel. Ellie frantically explains that her infection is old, but the three have raised border patrol alarms, so they escape into the darkness of Boston's outer walls. To close out the episode 1 of Last of Us, the 1987 Depeche Mode track Never Let Me Down Again plays through Joel's radio in the refuge apartment that Joel, Tess, and Ellie were in before they made their escape. When 1980s music is played through that device, that means two other smugglers, Bill and Frank, have encountered trouble, which means danger is ahead.